Hi everyone. Those of you who know me well know that I am always harping on about the good old exercise book, class notebook, the 1B5, whatever you like to call it, and how important it is. So now that the catch cry is back to books, let's look at how we go about using them in our classrooms. Before I start looking at how we can go about using these notebooks in our classrooms, let's have a look at why they're so important. So first of all, we know that any child learns how to speak by listening. Likewise, we learn how to write by copying what others have written. So when you get students to copy notes from the board, um, that's a thing. That's a valuable thing. It's not mind-numbingly boring. It's making them think about what they're writing. It's having them practice writing. It's good for students to copy notes from the board, the whiteboard, the screen, whatever you're getting them to copy. Okay, this performing seal nonsense that meant that, oh, we can't have kids copying. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. So let's get back to that. The next thing is students actually need these notebooks so that they have a tangible thing to hold and say, look what I have learned this year. From there, they can actually study. So for those quizzes, for those exams, they have something to study. I don't know how many students have contacted me to say, Miss, what are you talking about? I don't have notes. So little TikToks and things that I've done about, get your notes together. What notes? We don't have any notes because they've been using worksheets on Google Classroom and there's no compilation that they can refer to. So this tangible thing is a thing. The next thing, obviously, note taking. If you're getting students to note take at all, maybe from what you're saying. And for seniors, I think that's an important skill because they're going to go into tertiary education where that is important. So note taking as a skill can only be done in a notebook. And yes, I know they all use laptops and things at uni, but is the younger students need to start with the writing, handwriting. Yes, your seniors, go on, give them some practice on their laptops. And while you're at it, teach them to type and format. But that's a whole nother thing. Okay, we all know that spelling and writing is best learned on paper, pen to paper. The other thing is that when you mark these notebooks, that is a brilliant way to foster relationships with students because you can write little notes. They can even write notes back to you if you get that going. They love stickers. Even seniors love stickers. But the other thing, the most important thing, better than the old ASTOL or SMART tool, in my opinion, is getting to know students, what they can and can't do, what they need more of, what they need help with, is best illustrated through the work they do each day in this notebook. I can't emphasize the importance of these enough. Right, let's get into some good ways to use them. And for you older teachers who went through school like this and have carried on teaching with notebooks, this is going to be nothing new to you. But let's have a look at how I do it anyway. Just going to slot a couple more things in here. So logistics wise, keep these exercise books in the classroom. So those boxes that come with the reams of paper in them. I like to sellotape around those to reinforce them, and then each class has a box and they are standing up, the exercise books are standing up nice and neatly in those boxes. They're collected in, they're distributed with care. The other thing is, if you can get your senior managers, are you listening? To come around the classrooms regularly, get out of those offices, come into the classrooms and wander around and look at those exercise books, students will very quickly realize that they are important, that their work is important, that their book is important, and that will reinforce that learning and that work ethic. And if you've got students thinking they are important and their work is important, what more could you want? Isn't that what every school goes for? So if the whole school is behind these books and their importance and their care, you have got it going on. Okay, the first thing with exercise books is I think we need to bring back the title page. Here's one that I prepared earlier because, as you know, I'm not in the classroom at the moment, so I've just done up a notebook as I would see students doing it, and I always get them to do a title page. I write on the board the things that I want them to include in the title page, and I also suggest, depending on the unit, that they maybe leave some room on that title page, because at the end of the unit, for example, with this novel study here, at the end of the unit, they can go back and add things that are symbolic to the title page, and that reinforces learning as well, doesn't it? And sort of, so you've got a real beginning and you've got an end there. The other thing, of course, is that it helps section off that learning, those units, so students have the real idea of, okay, we're studying novel now, okay, we're studying creative writing now. They have those sections, they understand our units, they understand how our subject works. So title pages all the way. The other little thing, and I sort of say this in jest, but it's in all seriousness as well, I guess, because colouring in, doing a bit of art and craft is exactly what our students need, especially straight after lunch, last period on a Friday, whatever. If you can time it to those times, is great to create title pages, because they just need to get a little bit of zen in their lives. So just calm it down. Play some music, some nice music, that kind of thing. It's actually good for them. So bring back the title page, I say. The next thing I like is when students add tabs. I actually make this a bit, like optional, because some students love it, some don't. But I think it makes putting these little tabs in to separate units work, I think it makes them look really professional. And again, it drives home that this book is important, my work is important. For seniors, year 12, 13, I actually prefer that they use ring binders, because we sort of chop and change between, we do unfamiliar text throughout the year, so we'll be adding stuff to that section. So it's easy to just chop and change between units of work and add pages in there. So they just have a set of dividers with that ring binder. Again, keep the ring binders in the classroom. They can take a page or two home that they might need in a clear file, but those ring binders are gold for the seniors. See, told you, I'm really old-fashioned. Old-fashioned rules. If you're type A like me, you will be absolutely gutted when you see the cutting out skills and the gluing skills of your students. So it's worth beginning the year with a little bit of a cutting out and gluing session, I think, or at least the first time you glue something in, teach them to cut straight, to place the piece of paper onto the page straight. It's not rocket science. You don't need all the little edges left over. If you do have a page that you want students to glue in, show them how to do it like this. Look, and then it folds in, and then it's all protected when you shut the book. Fantastic. At the beginning of the year, you are going to want to set these books up. So you'll be wanting to show students how you want them formatted, but also remember this, it's a good idea to leave the first couple of pages blank and the last couple of pages, because you can glue things like your year plan into the front, or I like my daily dash graph in the back, things like that. So leave a couple of pages of the book free. So that's a good idea to remember before students start writing on that first page. The YUKKY page. Everyone knows the YUKKY page, right? So you're writing in your notebook. Where is it? And this page over here has writing from the previous period showing through. And a lot of students, don't like to write on that page because of that. So despite my type A personality and the fact that I do have to push students to start left to right and finish a page before you start the new one, I do let them get away with that, because if that means that they are worrying about how pretty their book looks, and I have to admit it's usually the girls, then so be it. That's great. I'm happy about that. They're loving their book and they're taking care of it. Great. As I mentioned before, at the beginning of the year, you'll want to go through how you want these exercise books set out. But I also have some golden rules that are absolutely unbreakable. And if students want to see me lose my cool altogether, it's quite easy to push my buttons, to be honest. But if they want to see me lose it, they will do any of these things. They will break any of these rules. Okay, so here are the rules. So your book is a taonga, a treasure. It should be treated as such all the time, okay? That's why we keep them in class. That's why we give them out carefully, that kind of thing. Never, ever, ever rip a page out. I don't care if it's a disaster. You never rip a page out of a book. Never, ever throw your book across the room. Here, put mine away, will you, Sam? No. Mistakes are expected. You're supposed to be making mistakes, but if you do, one little line through is fine. You don't need to, okay, none of that. I don't mind twink, whatever, those white tape things. Books must be formatted correctly, which I'm going to take you through in a minute. And messy work is redone. It's like, bro, you didn't write the date in full. Half your letters are sinking below the line. Write it again. And yes, there goes for year 12s. And use a blue or a black pen. I'm not really interested in notes done in green pens, pink pens, all the other pens. We're talking about old-fashioned, old school professionalism, because that's what used to work. And it still works if you do this in your classroom. So blue or black pen. I sound like a grumpy old thing. I am, but it works. It's important. Okay, let's get into format now. Regarding format, I've got, there's a blog that I'll link below, and that's got a great big visual that shows you and points to, has arrows and labels and everything to show you format. So that might be helpful for you, but also might be helpful for your students. So as I say, I'll link that below. But let's have a look at this page now. Just trying to get up close and personal. So here we go. The date is in full, and it's underlined with a red pen and a ruler. And if they don't use a ruler, miss a couple of lines, write it again. Don't use a ruler, miss a couple of lines, write it again. And I tell you, you only have to lose your cool a couple of times and make them do that a few times, and they get the message in the end. Then there's the title or heading, whatever you want to call it. It's centered. Miss a couple of lines, or one line, and center the heading. That's a new thing. And every word is capitalized except the little ones. So then they get to learn how to do a title for their writing and things, okay? So again, underlined, red pen and a ruler. Then we have our notes, our class notes that we've copied off the board. And sometimes I'll say to them, hey, you might like to highlight these bits, or sometimes the students will do that themselves. So here we've got a couple of quotes from our novel highlighted because we want them to stand out. And then we've got an activity here. So underneath the notes, so this is what we are learning in class, and now this is the related activity that they're doing. Right, let's get into another page. So here we go. We've got now a subheading. Can you see that? Yep. A subheading here on the left and underline in the blue or black pen that we're using. So now students are learning about headings, subheadings, great for report writing, just a general life skill. Also great for when they are reading. They learn to look for those visual cues. So it all merges together. It's all a big, beautiful thing. Okay, so here are our notes for the day. And then we didn't do any more that day, but the next day we've got the notes again, and we're just carrying on. So there's no new heading or anything. We're just carrying on. And this is a student activity, actually straight into a student activity, but we've got the date, so we know. And then here we go into the activities. And then we've got some marking here. Now, a couple of things. As I mentioned before, sometimes you have to show students that they need to start left to right. And this is like your year 11s, your year 10s. No, we go left to right, we finish a page before we start the next one. And the other thing is that a lot of students sort of struggle to line their writing up on the left-hand margin. So that could be a little lesson that you want to give them at the beginning of the year as well. Right, let's talk about marking their books. I've talked about this before in a previous blog, maybe a vlog, but let's get into that. I might make myself really unpopular here, but I'm going to say it anyway. And you know what I mean. There is no point in teachers getting students to do any work if it's not going to be checked. Because like I am an absolute, as I say, type A. I was like super student. Everything has to be perfect. If I knew that that teacher was never going to look at my book, I wouldn't have done it. Okay, so it's about student engagement, but obviously it's also about their learning because you're checking it. All right, so there is no point in setting students' work if you don't expect them to do it. And there's no point in students doing work if you're not going to look at it. So yeah, sorry if that's an unpopular opinion, but I think that it's correct. One way to manage marking is to sticker ahead. I've spoken about that before. So you go through you have the last lot of work marked, and then you go through 4, 6 pages, depending on the student, and put a sticker there. When they get to the sticker, they hand their book in. So say you've got a class of 30, you usually have about 4 or 5 books that you need to mark that night. Now, here's the little trick, and this was what my dad really pushed me to do, is get up off your backside, Sue, and roam the classroom, and you are constantly looking at what those students are doing in their books, and you are marking as you go. You've got your red pen out, and if you see a student doing a little I for I, put a circle around it. Remember capital for I, because you are important, and write that note in there, and oh wow, that's amazing work, here's a little sticker, and things like that. And you're catching them when they are hot. You are catching them when they need that feedback, when they're making that mistake. You're going, hey, you're or you are, things like that. So it's just gold. That's how they learn. So that's how you can cut down on the amount that you need to mark once they do hand their books in as well. So easy peasy. The other thing is the tools. 15 years ago, some blooming tree hugger said, oh my goodness, I'm getting really unpopular, I can tell, said, oh gosh, don't use a red pen because students will think that you're angry. No, not angry. Red pen stands out. That's why we use a red pen to mark. Look, I'm spitting now, I'm so passionate. That's why we use a red pen to mark, because the red pen stands out. If you have something bright pink or bright green, something that stands out, go for your life. But, make it stand out. The other thing is obviously your stickers. You need stickers. Now, I am not kidding. The year 13s love stickers. And the reason I started using them again for my seniors was when I took time out to have my kids, I got stuck into Play Centre, and I did a lot of the parenting courses that they have. And our tutor would give us stickers. And at first I thought, oh, well, does she think I'm a kid or something? And then the next time I didn't get a sticker, and I was gutted. I remember talking to my husband about it and saying, I didn't get a sticker. So I love stickers as an adult. Year 13s, they will say, oh, miss, do you think we're babies? No, I won't give them to you, though, next time if you don't want them. And then they all moan if you don't give them a sticker. So there you go. The other thing is the highlighting, and I've talked about this trick as well. It's not my trick. I got it from one of my girls' teachers. Highlight things that students do well in a green highlighter, and so green for mean, and highlight things that are a bit dodgy, like maybe a word spelled incorrectly, a sentence that is grammatically incorrect, in pink. So pink means think again, right? Pink for think. Pink means think. Straight away, your students will do what mine always have and say, oh, it's pink. Pink is stink, miss. Well, hey, well, yeah, if that's how you want to, what you want to call it, yeah, it is. So green for mean, pink for stink. I find that a really unsustainable way of marking. However, it's kind of good for one-offs. If you say to them, okay, do a bit of writing, whatever, and this is how I'm going to mark it, and they love, especially I had this year 13 one year, they all used to hold their pages up to show the class how much pink they had or how much green they had, and it was like a big competition. But so it can be really effective in that way, but for your basic day-to-day marking, I found it unsustainable anyway. But find your own methods. I feel as though I've rabbited on even more than usual for this video. Again, I'll link the blog below. It might help some of you teachers who are thinking, okay, so we need to get off these devices, get back to books. How am I going to manage this? What's this going to look like in my classroom? So hopefully this helps. See ya.